Your son won't be able to attend this school. We have strict selection criteria and special requirements, the headmistress of the elite academy said haughtily when she saw the clothes I was wearing. I had denied myself everything just to afford my son's education. But after my response, her face turned crimson in an instant. Sophia Wright opened her eyes a second before the alarm went off. The sixth sense of a single mother, honed by years of living on the edge of survival. She smiled softly, staring at the gray, pre-dawn ceiling of her tiny apartment on the outskirts of the city. Today was an important day, perhaps the most important in her and Alex's life. Throwing off the blanket, she jumped out of bed, not allowing herself the luxury of lingering. Every minute counted. Outside, the city was still asleep, and the sky had only just begun to lighten. "Alex! Wake up, sweetheart!" "Big day," she called out, turning on the kettle and pulling eggs from the fridge for breakfast at the same time. Her hands trembled with nerves, and Sophia forced herself to take a deep breath. "Calm down. Everything will be fine. We've prepared for this." Alex appeared in the kitchen doorway, a slim 11-year-old boy with curious, intelligent eyes that sometimes unsettled Sophia with their intensity. He was already dressed in a freshly ironed shirt and pants, the best clothes they could afford. But there was a slight fray on the collar and a barely noticeable patch on the trousers. "Mom, you promised not to be nervous," he said, watching her trembling hands. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and yawned, reaching instinctively for the plush teddy bear still sitting on his nightstand, despite claiming long ago that he was too old for baby stuff. That small gesture reminded Sophia that no matter how brilliant he was still a child. She smiled, trying to look more confident than she felt. "I'm calm, absolutely calm. Just had coffee last night." "Bad idea." Alex smiled back, but his eyes gave him away. He understood everything. He always had. Ever since he took apart and reassembled complex mechanisms at age 3. Ever since he solved equations at 5 that Sophia barely understood herself. While Alex ate breakfast, Sophia checked the contents of her worn handbag for the 100th time. Diplomas, certificates, recommendation letters from teachers and the school principal, results from academic competitions and tests, the whole story of her son's achievements, packed into a cardboard folder. "Mom, are you sure this is necessary?" Alex asked, spreading jam on his toast. "Mr. Holland says I can keep studying with him." "Yes, it's necessary," Sophia replied firmly, sitting beside him and gently brushing a crumb from his cheek. "Mr. Holland is a wonderful teacher, but your potential demands more. Westbrook Academy is the best school in the city, and you deserve to study there. And I deserve to see you become everything you're capable of," she added silently. "What if I don't fit in?" Alex asked quietly, and in his voice Sophia heard a rare note of uncertainty. "What if the other kids?" "Listen," she said, taking his hands in hers. "You're smarter than most adults I know. But more importantly, you have a kind heart. Kids can be cruel, but they also sense what's real and what's fake. They respect people who don't pretend. Just be yourself." Alex nodded, though doubt still lingered in his eyes. Sophia understood his anxiety. The world they were stepping into today wasn't just a different school. It was a different universe. Westbrook Academy literally and figuratively towered over the city. A historic red brick building surrounded by manicured lawns and ornamental trees, it sat on a hill in the most prestigious district. This was where the children of politicians, business tycoons, and celebrities studied, the next generation of the elite. As they approached the main pathway, Sophia and Alex saw a group of well-dressed parents with children gathered around a young man in a flawless suit bearing the academy's emblem. They instinctively slowed down, listening to his confident, pride-filled voice. At Westbrook, success is inherited and amplified, the guide was explaining to the incoming students. We pride ourselves on the lifelong connections forged here. Behind us stand the traditions of 3 generations of leaders. The parents nodded approvingly, and the future students gazed admiringly at the grand building and the plaques on the Walk of Fame, commemorating the school's most distinguished alumni. Some of the names bore discreet notations of 6- and 7-figure family donations, a legacy of success measured in large numbers. Sophia noticed Alex studying the plaques, not with envy, but with a curious, almost scientific interest, like someone observing an unfamiliar species. She gave his hand an encouraging squeeze, and they kept walking. Passing the group of prospective students, they approached the massive wrought iron gates. Expensive cars pulled up at the front entrance, letting out students in perfect uniforms bearing the school emblem, accompanied by impeccably dressed parents. The guard at the gate gave them a suspicious look, one that told Sophia everything he thought about a woman in a dress too plain and a boy dressed in sailbin clothes. "Good morning. We have an appointment with Principal Sterling. I'm Sophia Wright, and this is my son, Alex," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The guard raised an eyebrow, as if doubting her words, but after a brief pause, he nodded and gestured toward the main building. Principal's office is on the second floor, central wing. As they walked across the campus, Sophia could feel eyes on her. She wanted to shrink, to disappear into thin air. But she forced herself to keep her head high. For him, she reminded herself. Everything is for him. The principal's office felt more like a museum, antique furniture, heavy framed paintings, and a silence so dense it pressed against her eardrums. "Mrs. Wright," the secretary said coldly. "Principal Sterling is expecting you. Please, go in." Sophia squeezed Alex's hand and took a deep breath, as if preparing to jump into icy water. Victoria Sterling, head of Westbrook Academy, was exactly as Sophia had imagined her, a tall woman in her 50s, with perfect posture and eyes the color of a winter sky. Faint lines at the corners of her eyes hinted that she might once have smiled often, but now her face showed only composed superiority. Her office radiated power and privilege, a massive mahogany desk, bookshelves from floor to ceiling, and a panoramic window overlooking the city. "Sit," Victoria said, without rising to greet them. She gestured to the chairs across from her desk and waited, eyes fixed on Sophia. "Thank you for seeing us, Mrs. Sterling," Sophia began as she helped Alex into the seat beside her. "We're very grateful for the opportunity." "I've reviewed your son's file," Victoria interrupted, adjusting her designer glasses. "Impressive accomplishments for a child from," she paused, her gaze drifting to the worn cuffs of Sophia's dress, "your neighborhood." In that pause, Sophia heard everything that hadn't been said aloud. From a poor area. From an unstable home. Not the right background. "Thank you," Sophia said, struggling to keep calm. "Alex has shown unusual talent in math and physics since the age of 5. His current teachers say he needs a more advanced curriculum." Victoria gave a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked first at Alex, then at Sophia, appraisingly. "You see, Mrs. Wright, our academy is not just about education. It's about a certain circle, tradition, continuity across generations." Her gaze slid like a scalpel to Sophia's outdated shoes with worn-down heels. The corners of her mouth twitched into a polite half-smile, void of sincerity, silently saying, "You don't belong here. I'm afraid your son won't be able to attend this school. We have strict selection criteria and special requirements." Sophia felt her face flush. Beside her, Alex tensed but said nothing. "What specific requirement does my son not meet?" she asked, striving to keep her voice level. Victoria removed her glasses and set them on the desk. "Westbrook Academy is a community. The families of our students contribute significantly to the school's development. Charitable donations, participation on the board, a certain social standing." "I understand," Sophia said quietly, her heart tightening. "You think we're not wealthy enough for your school?" "I wouldn't put it so crudely," Victoria said with a condescending smile. "Some children are simply better suited to more appropriate environments." Something in Sophia broke, but it wasn't despair. It was fury. Cold, focused fury that gave her strength. "You know, Mrs. Sterling, I may seem unfit to you. I work as a cleaner at night and as a library assistant during the day. I don't have expensive clothes or connections. But every single thing I do, every cent I earn, goes into my son's future." She pulled an envelope from her bag, the one she had kept like a final trump card. This is a letter from Professor Robert Collins of Cambridge University. He saw Alex's solutions at the National Math Olympiad and wrote that this is the work of a once-in-a-generation mind. Victoria reluctantly took the envelope, and her expression shifted slightly at the sight of the official letterhead and seal. Something flickered in her eyes, uncertainty, perhaps? And this, Sophia continued, pulling out another document, is a legal opinion stating that denial of admission based on financial status constitutes discrimination, especially when it concerns a child with exceptional abilities. My son has the right to the best education, no matter how much my shoes cost. Victoria's face flushed dark red, and her eyes narrowed. She stared at Sophia as if seeing her for the first time. Are you threatening me? Her voice turned icy. No, Sophia answered calmly. I'm just protecting my son's future. Like any mother would. Silence fell over the office, sharp and absolute. It felt as if time itself had frozen between the two women, one armed with privilege and power, the other with nothing but a mother's love and unshakable resolve. A single tear glistened at the corner of Alex's eye, not from fear, but from pride in his mother. 5 years earlier. Sophia reread the note from the teacher for the third time, her hands trembling more with each pass. Dear Mrs. Wright, please find time for an urgent meeting regarding Alex's latest test. It's very important. Sincerely, Carol Baker. Miss Baker, I came as soon as I could. Sophia burst into the classroom after her morning library shift, still in her work clothes. Is something wrong? Is Alex okay? The teacher looked up from a stack of notebooks. Her clumsy red-rimmed glasses sat low on her nose, and her short hair stuck out in all directions, as if she had a habit of running her fingers through it while deep in thought. Her sharp features might have seemed stern, if not for the smile lines crinkling at the corners of her eyes, evidence of someone who smiled often. Mrs. Wright, Alex is just fine. I asked you to come because of this. She handed Sophia a sheet of paper. Sophia took it with shaking hands, expecting a bad grade or a reprimand. Instead, it was a math test, covered in complex formulas she could barely understand. In the corner, written in red pen, was an A++. I don't understand. This test was meant for 6th grade, Miss Baker said. Alex somehow took it from my colleague's desk and solved all the problems. Flawlessly. He's 6 years old and solving material for 12-year-olds. Oh, Sophia murmured, unsure what to say. I'm sorry he took someone else's. You don't understand, the teacher interrupted, her eyes glowing. This isn't just good. This is. Alex is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. Sophia slowly sat down, still clutching the test paper like a miracle in her hands. What should we do? She finally asked. He needs a special program, Miss Baker said firmly. He needs opportunities that match his potential. Sophia looked at the formulas written in her son's familiar messy handwriting and suddenly understood, with terrifying clarity, her son's life would never be ordinary. And it was her job to find a way to make sure his uniqueness became his strength, not his curse. Do you have a husband? Other children? Anyone who could help? Miss Baker asked gently. Sophia shook her head. His father left when he found out I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready for responsibility, she said with a mirthless smile. It's just the two of us now. And how do you manage his uniqueness? The teacher asked gently. Sophia paused for a moment. Honestly? Sometimes it's frightening. When your 6-year-old explains why the sky is blue using words you've never even heard before. Or when, at 4, he took apart a radio just to see how it worked, and then put it back together. But more often, it's beautiful. Seeing his eyes light up when he understands something new. The joy of discovery. I just try to keep up. You're an incredible woman, Mrs. Wright, Miss Baker said sincerely. Many parents struggle with far smaller challenges. I'm not incredible, Sophia shook her head. I'm just his mom. A week after the meeting with Victoria Sterling, Sophia sat in her kitchen trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Alex had been accepted into Westbrook Academy, perhaps due to her persistence, or maybe because the administration feared a potential scandal over discrimination. But even with the partial scholarship she had negotiated, the yearly fee remained unbearably high. A phone call pulled her from her thoughts. "Mrs. Wright? This is James Foster, chairman of the Westbrook Academy Board of Trustees. I have a proposal that may interest you." His voice was soft, yet carried the unmistakable confidence of someone used to getting exactly what he wanted. An hour later, they met in the academy cafeteria. James Foster turned out to be a well-groomed man in an expensive suit, with a confident smile and the assessing gaze of a collector evaluating a prospective acquisition. Something in that look, measuring, weighing, made Sophia uneasy. "You know, I was impressed by the materials you submitted," he said, flipping through Alex's file. "These are truly exceptional results. I haven't seen anything like this, even from high school students." Victoria Sterling, seated beside him, pursed her lips. "James, you know it's not just about ability. We have traditions. A reputation. Which is built on the academic success of our alumni, isn't it?" He cut in, and Sophia was surprised by the firmness in his tone. An elegant woman in her 40s approached their table. Rachel Green, mathematics instructor, she introduced herself with a nod to Sophia. Her eyes paused on the problem sheets spread out before them. "Are these your sons?" "Yes," Sophia confirmed. "This boy solves problems in the most elegant way I've ever seen," Rachel noted, studying the pages. "It would be a crime not to give him a chance." Victoria pressed her lips together but said nothing. A flicker of irritation passed through her eyes. "Mrs. Wright," James leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I've heard about your financial struggles. And about the sacrifices you've made for your son." "They're not sacrifices," Sophia replied firmly. "They're investments in his future." James smiled, and in his eyes flickered something like respect, blended with something else Sophia couldn't quite place. "I'd like to offer you a job at my company. Full-time administrative assistant. Health insurance. Better pay. It could help with Alex's tuition." Sophia looked at him, skeptical. "Why are you doing this?" she asked bluntly. James leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. "Let's just say I admire your dedication to your son. And, I'll admit, Alex impressed me. I believe in investing in talent." There was sincerity in his words that made Sophia want to trust him, though something deep down warned her to be cautious. Still, she needed help, desperately. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Foster. I accept." He smiled, a smile that sent a chill down Sophia's spine. There was something predatory in it, as if he had just secured what he truly wanted. On the way home, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a deal without fully understanding its terms. 2 weeks later, Sophia was working late at Foster's office. Most of the staff had already gone home, but she needed to finish an urgent report. When the screen started to blur before her eyes, she decided to take a break and grab a coffee. In the corridor, she ran into James Foster. "Mrs. Wright," he smiled, casting over her the measured glance of a seasoned trader. "Working late? Impressive. Just finishing up the data summary for your speech tomorrow," Sophia nodded, trying to pass by. There was something about the way he looked at her, as if evaluating merchandise, that made her deeply uncomfortable. "How's Alex? Adjusting well to the academy?" "Yes, thank you." "He likes it, though," she hesitated, unwilling to complain to her employer. "Though some of the kids aren't very friendly?" James finished for her. "Yes, kids can be cruel. Especially to those who stand out." There was a note of understanding in his voice that caught Sophia off guard. Maybe she'd misjudged him? "You know, I keep thinking about your situation." James took a step closer, invading her space. "Single mother. These expenses. Constant struggle. It must be exhausting." "I manage," Sophia said firmly, stepping back. Of course, James stepped forward again. But why struggle when things could be easier? His hand brushed her shoulder, trailing down her arm. The touch was light, but it made her skin crawl. "What are you doing?" Sophia jerked her arm away. Offering a mutually beneficial arrangement, James purred, his voice lowering to something intimate. "You need help with Alex's tuition. I need companionship. From time to time. My wife is always busy with her charities, and I get lonely." Sophia felt her stomach twist with disgust. Now every look, every smile, the job offer, all took on a clear, ugly meaning. "You're offering me," she couldn't even finish the sentence. "I'm offering protection," James said smoothly, flashing perfect teeth. "A special scholarship for Alex. A solution to your housing problem. I've got a lovely vacant apartment. And no more night shifts at the hospital." A wedding ring gleamed on his finger. "You're married," Sophia said quietly. "It's just a formality," James waved it off. "That marriage ended years ago, just not on paper." Sophia looked him straight in the eye. There was no shame in his expression, only the smug confidence of a man used to getting what he wanted. "Mr. Foster, I'm not interested in your offer. Not now, not ever." She wanted to say much more, to voice her revulsion, but held herself back. Her son's future was still tied to this man. "Think about it." His smile vanished, his voice turned cold. "Life can get a lot harder for you. And for Alex. Westbrook Academy isn't just about education. It's about connections. The future. I can open every door for him. Or close them." Sophia felt a wave of fury rise inside her. "Are you threatening me?" "No," James smiled again, but now there was nothing but calculation behind it. "I'm simply stating reality. Think it over. I'm a patient man." With those words, he walked away, leaving Sophia shaking with rage and humiliation. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. For Alex, she reminded herself. Everything is for Alex. But the price Foster was asking was too high. Sophia knew she would never agree to his terms, even if it meant finding another way. Alex's first day at the academy was full of discoveries and contrasts. Huge classrooms with the latest equipment, a spacious library, laboratories unlike anything he had ever seen. And the looks, curious, suspicious, evaluative. He entered the biochemistry lab with a pounding heart. Everything here breathed science, flasks, microscopes, interactive boards. He hesitantly took a seat at an empty desk and fiddled with his worn notebook. "Hey, that's my seat," came a displeased voice behind him. Alex looked up and saw a blond boy with a condescending expression. Impeccable uniform, expensive watch on his wrist, and a cold stare. "Sorry, I didn't know." Alex quickly gathered his things. "I'm new." "Yeah, that's obvious," the boy said, eyeing Alex's scuffed bag. "You're that scholarship kid, right? The one everyone's talking about?" The room fell silent. Alex felt all eyes shift to him. "I'm Alex," he said, extending a hand in a friendly gesture. The boy ignored the hand. "Brandon Harrington. Remember that name." Just then, a young man with tousled hair and energetic steps entered the room, interrupting the awkward moment. "Good morning, class," he called out, scanning the room until his eyes landed on the unfamiliar face. We have a new student today. Alex Wright, correct?" "I'm Professor Nathan Blackwood, your biochemistry instructor." "Yes, sir," Alex replied quietly, aware that everyone was still watching him. "I've heard about your talents," Nathan smiled. "Care to show us something?" I'm not sure," Alex stammered, not used to being the center of attention. "Don't be shy," Nathan encouraged. "Come up to the board." Alex stepped forward hesitantly, acutely aware of every gaze. Nathan wrote a complex chemical equation on the board. "Give it a try." Alex took the marker. His hand trembled slightly. But as he focused on the problem, the rest of the world faded away. He began writing the solution, sinking into the familiar world of numbers and formulas, where things made sense, unlike the tangled world of people. When he finished and turned back to the class, he saw surprise on his classmates' faces and admiration in the teacher's eyes. "Amazing!" Nathan exclaimed. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what genius looks like. And I'm excited we get to witness it." Alex gave a shy smile, but noticed Brandon's glare from the back row, full of irritation and envy. The next class was math, and Alex rushed to avoid being late. But the academy's hallways were a labyrinth, and by the time he found the right room, the bell had already rung. At the desk sat a strict-looking woman with tightly pinned hair, Rachel Green, whom he had briefly seen in the cafeteria with his mother. But now her face showed no trace of friendliness. "Mr. Wright, I assume," she asked coldly. "You're late. That is unacceptable at Westbrook." "I'm sorry, Alex began, but she cut him off. "Take a seat. And remember, there will be no special treatment in my class, regardless of any recommendations." Alex shrank slightly and quickly took the nearest open seat. Throughout the lesson, he raised his hand several times, knowing the answers to everything Mrs. Green asked, but she ignored him. "Anyone else?" she'd say, looking over his head. "Mr. Wright, your enthusiasm is admirable, but I'd like to hear from other students." He heard some kids whispering and giggling. "I won't tell Mom," he decided. "She's already worried enough." During recess, Alex sat alone on a bench in the schoolyard, flipping through his textbook. A group of boys approached, led by Brandon. "Hey, scholarship boy," Brandon called. "Is it true your mom cleans hospital floors?" Alex flinched at the sudden question but answered calmly. "Yes, my mom works at a hospital. She helps people." "Hear that?" Brandon turned to his friends. "His mom's a janitor. How'd someone like you even get in here?" Alex hesitated. He wanted to snap back, to defend his mom, but he remembered what she had told him about staying true to himself. "I was accepted because of my abilities," he replied, trying not to take the bait. "What about you?" The boys burst into laughter, and Brandon flushed red with anger. He shoved Alex hard. "Don't get smart, pauper," he hissed. "Leave him alone, Brandon." A girl with red braids pushed through the crowd. "Just because your daddy bought your spot here doesn't make you smarter." Brandon stepped back, shooting her a hateful look. "Shut up, Lisa. This isn't your business." "Bullying people is everyone's business," she shot back, standing beside Alex. At that moment, Nathan Blackwood approached. "Is there a problem here, kids?" he asked with a smile, though his eyes were sharp and observant. "No, sir," Brandon said quickly, shifting into a respectful tone. "We're just getting to know the new guy." "Wonderful," Nathan nodded. "Alex, may I speak with you for a moment?" He pulled Alex aside and lowered his voice. "I saw how they were treating you. Don't worry, it's just jealousy. You're gifted. Listen, I'm working on a research project. I think you could help." "Really?" Alex's eyes lit up. Finally, someone who saw him as more than just a poor kid. "What kind of project?" "Cognitive development in gifted children. How minds like yours approach complex problems. Come to the lab after class. I'll show you something interesting." Nathan left, and Lisa walked up to Alex. "I'm Lisa Foster," she said. "Ignore Brandon. He's just jealous." "Thanks for standing up for me," Alex said sincerely. "Your dad helped my mom get a job, didn't he?" Lisa nodded, but her face turned serious. "Yes, he's my father," she said, pausing as if unsure whether to continue. "Be careful with Mr. Blackwood." "Why?" Alex asked, surprised. "He seems really friendly." "Maybe too friendly," Lisa lowered her voice. "My sister Claire was his special project last year. Then he published a paper, won an award, never even mentioned her name. When she spoke up, he made everyone believe she was just jealous of his success." Alex frowned. You think he wants to use my ideas? I don't know, Lisa admitted. Just be cautious. Document everything you do. And don't sign anything without your mom. Alex nodded, deeply grateful to this girl, who, out of everyone, had taken the time to warn him. Why are you helping me? He asked. We don't even know each other. Lisa smiled, dimples forming on her cheeks. Maybe because I know what it feels like to be different. They tease me too, for caring more about science than fashion. The bell rang, interrupting their conversation, and they parted ways for class. But for the first time that day, Alex felt he might actually find friends here after all. Alex froze at the entrance to the cafeteria. The noise of voices, the clatter of dishes, the unpredictable rituals of social interaction, all of it made him anxious. He could solve the most complex equations, but he couldn't decode the unspoken rules of teenage hierarchies. The language of mathematics was simple and logical, the code of human behavior, chaotic and full of exceptions. Are you coming? Lisa asked, stopping beside him. I'm just analyzing the optimal route to the least crowded table, he replied, feeling his heart beat faster than normal. Lisa smiled. You know, sometimes the best strategy is no strategy. Come on, I'll introduce you to my friends. After class, despite Lisa's warning, Alex went to the lab. He felt drawn to it like a magnet, so many possibilities, so many new and fascinating things. Nathan was showing him the lab with open enthusiasm. Complex equipment lined the tables, graphs and diagrams flickered on the screens. My project could change the education system, he said excitedly. Imagine identifying exceptional cognitive potential at an early age and nurturing it with a specialized program. I've already caught the attention of major corporations and educational foundations. As Nathan explained, Alex began to grasp the essence of the theory, something about neural connections, problem-solving patterns, and non-traditional learning methods. It sounded impressive, but a small part of him couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. How can I help? Alex asked, both intrigued and cautious. I need someone with your intelligence, Nathan placed a hand on his shoulder. You'll be the face of the project. We'll run a series of tests, record how you solve problems. Then there'll be presentations to investors, the press. It could be a breakthrough in education. Alex hesitated, remembering Lisa's warning. It sounds interesting, but I need to ask my mom. No need to trouble her, Nathan said quickly. She already works so hard. This will be our little secret. She'll be proud later. Something about that phrase, little secret, made Alex uneasy. That's what people say when they're doing something wrong, isn't it? I still have to tell her, Alex said firmly. We tell each other everything. Nathan's face froze for a moment, then he quickly forced a smile. As you wish, he shrugged, though his smile looked strained. Just think about my offer. It's a great opportunity. As Alex left, he noticed a folder on Nathan's desk labeled Cognitive Breakthrough, the Blackwood Method. He didn't have time to see what was inside, but a chill ran down his spine. Something told him Lisa's warning hadn't been unfounded. The next day during a math test, Alex felt someone watching him. He glanced up and met Mrs. Green's eyes. She was studying him as if he were under a microscope. Mr. Wright, stay after class, she announced loudly, sparking a wave of whispers across the room. Brandon grinned triumphantly, as if Alex had been caught doing something wrong. When the bell rang, everyone filed out, but Alex remained at his desk, waiting for a reprimand. Rachel approached, holding his test, her expression unreadable. Do you know why I asked you to stay? She asked sternly. No, ma'am, Alex replied, his heart pounding. Did I do something wrong? You used a method we haven't covered yet, she said, looking down at his paper. And it was far more advanced than necessary. I just solved it the way that made the most sense to me, Alex murmured, unsure what the issue was. Rachel studied him for a long moment, then unexpectedly pulled out a folder from her desk. Her expression softened, and she glanced around, as if to confirm they were truly alone. Do you know what this is? She asked, opening the folder and lowering her voice. Copies of Nathan Blackwood's work from the past 3 years, articles, research, conference presentations. Why are you showing me this? Alex asked, puzzled. Because the method you used is identical to his most recent, unpublished theory, Rachel replied, watching him closely. A theory he plans to present as groundbreaking. But I've never seen his theory, Alex said, confused. I just think that way. That's exactly what's remarkable, Rachel nodded. Either you somehow got access to his work, or, more likely, you arrived at the same conclusions independently. Which says more about your intellect than any test ever could. He showed me his lab yesterday, Alex said slowly. He asked me to join his project. I suspected as much, Rachel nodded. You're not the first. He's done this before, 3 times, in fact, she added, her voice tightening with anger. He's taken ideas from gifted students and passed them off as his own. The last case was Lisa Foster's sister. Lisa mentioned something about that, Alex recalled. I tried to report it to the administration, Rachel said, shaking her head. But Nathan has powerful allies. Principal Sterling refuses to hear a word against him, his grants bring in too much money. She paused, then spoke in a completely different tone. I didn't mean to be harsh with you in class, Alex. But not everyone here is what they seem. And not everyone who seems like an enemy really is. You were strict with me on purpose? Alex guessed. To keep anyone from suspecting I was helping you, Rachel nodded. At Westbrook, everything is tangled, power, money, status. I try to stay out of it and focus on teaching. But sometimes, you have to take a stand. What should I do? Alex asked, feeling lost in this adult world of hidden agendas. Be careful, Rachel said seriously. Keep a record of everything you do for Nathan. Save copies. And most importantly, tell your mother. She needs to know what you're dealing with. You know my mom? Alex asked suddenly. I saw you with her in the cafeteria. I wouldn't say I know her, Rachel replied with a soft smile. But I respect her. Not many people would fight so hard for their child's future. Alex looked at his teacher, who suddenly didn't seem so strict or cold after all. Thank you, he said sincerely. For telling me the truth. You're welcome, Rachel smiled, a real, warm smile for the first time. Now go. And remember, I'll still be tough on you in class. You have too much potential to waste it. That evening, Sophia came home after yet another exhausting day, first her job at Foster's company, then a shift at the hospital. She was counting money, trying to figure out how to cover Alex's next tuition payment, when there was a knock at the door. Standing on the doorstep was William Barnes, an elderly man with tired eyes, their landlord. Sophia, I'm really sorry, but I can't wait any longer, he said bluntly. 3 months overdue. Please, Mr. Barnes, just a little more time, Sophia pleaded. I'm expecting a bonus. I've already granted 2 extensions, William said, shaking his head, though his eyes showed genuine regret. He knew their situation and sympathized in his own way. I'm truly sorry, but I have obligations too. If the payment doesn't come by the end of the month. He didn't finish, but they both knew what it meant. Closing the door, Sophia leaned against the wall, fighting back tears. At that moment, Alex entered the room. Mom, I need to tell you something, he began seriously. What is it, sweetheart? Sophia straightened immediately, hiding her fatigue and worry. Alex told her everything, Nathan's offer, Lisa's warning, the conversation with Mrs. Green. Mr. Blackwood says I might get a scholarship, he finished. He's working on an important project and wants me to be part of it. But Lisa and Mrs. Green think he might steal my ideas. Sophia listened closely, a growing unease building inside her. She had known Alex's talent would draw attention, but she hadn't expected him to be pulled into such complicated dynamics so soon. You did the right thing by telling me, she said, hugging her son. And I'm glad you found people who want to help you. Lisa sounds like a good person. She really is, Alex nodded. And she's Mr. Foster's daughter. At the mention of that name, Sophia's face tightened, though she tried to hide it. "Mom, are you okay?" Alex, as always, noticed her reaction. "Did something happen?" Sophia hesitated. She didn't want to burden him with her problems, but honesty had always been the foundation of their bond. "There've been some complications with Mr. Foster at work," she said carefully. "Nothing I can't handle." "Did he do something bad?" Alex looked at her with uncanny insight for someone his age. "He made an offer I can't accept," she answered evasively. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I'll find another way." At that moment, Sophia's phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "This is Rachel Green. We need to talk about your son and Mr. Blackwood. It's urgent." Sophia showed the message to Alex. "Looks like your math teacher wants to help." "I told you, she's not as strict as she seems," Alex grinned. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. "You know, sometimes the strictest teachers turn out to be the best mentors," she said. "Everyone has their reasons for acting the way they do. Why do you think Mr. Blackwood wants to use other people's ideas?" Alex asked. "Can't he come up with his own?" Sophia sighed, trying to explain the complexity of adult motives in a way he'd understand. "It's not always about ability, sweetheart. Sometimes people lack patience or honesty. They want success to be fast and easy. And when they see someone with real talent, like you, they might want to take advantage of that." "That's sad," Alex said thoughtfully. "If he just asked for help and gave me credit, I'd be happy to share." Sophia smiled, once again amazed by her son's wisdom. "You're an extraordinary person, Alex Wright. And I'm proud of you every single day." The next day, Sophia met Rachel in a small cafe not far from the academy. The math teacher was visibly nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder as if afraid someone might see them together. "I'm risking my career by telling you this," she said in a low voice. "But I can't stay silent anymore." "Alex told me about your conversation," Sophia replied. "What's really going on?" "Nathan Blackwood is a fraud," Rachel leaned in. "He uses gifted students for his research, then claims their ideas as his own. He's done it 3 times. "But why would the school administration?" Sophia began, but Rachel gave a bitter smile. "Because his work brings in grants and prestige." Victoria Sterling turns a blind eye. "And Foster," she paused, watching Sophia closely. "He's invested money in Nathan's company." Oh my God, Sophia felt the puzzle pieces falling into a disturbing picture. "So the job offer was probably part of the plan," Rachel nodded. "To keep you close. To monitor you. Maybe to apply pressure." She pulled a folder from her bag and placed it on the table. "It's not enough to say ideas were stolen," she explained, spreading out documents. "Nathan's smart enough to rewrite things, use synonyms, restructure arguments. At first glance, his papers seem original. Then how do we prove it?" Sophia asked. "With mathematical analysis. I tracked the evolution of key concepts. Compared dates. Created a chart of terminology before and after sessions with gifted students. When you graph it," she pointed to a diagram, "it becomes obvious. The new elements appear only after contact with the kids." Sophia studied the documents carefully. "This is everything I've collected over the last 3 years. Evidence, testimony from students, original drafts, and Nathan's later publications. The similarities are clear to any expert, but he's always changed just enough to avoid direct accusations." Sophia flipped through the files, feeling her anger rise. "What does he want from Alex?" she asked, clenching her fists, a wave of maternal fury rising inside her. "Your son isn't just smart, Mrs. Wright," Rachel said. "He's a genius. His way of thinking is unique. Nathan wants to use him to build a new theory of cognitive development. And if you sign those papers—" "I won't sign anything," Sophia said firmly. "Then be ready," Rachel warned. "They'll find a way to get rid of Alex. Some invented rule violation. They'll create a situation to make him look like the problem. Sophia was silent for a moment, then said, "We need proof of his intentions. Something concrete, against Blackwood and maybe even Foster." "I have an idea," Rachel said cautiously. "But it will require Alex's involvement." "I'm not putting my son in danger," Sophia responded immediately. "It's not dangerous," Rachel reassured her. "More like a little acting." "How do you interact with Nathan in public?" "We barely have," Sophia replied. "He sent me papers to sign, but I haven't returned them." "Good," Rachel nodded. "Let's use that. I'll pretend to be skeptical of Alex's abilities in public. It'll give Nathan confidence that no one suspects him." "And Alex? What would he need to do?" "Keep working with Nathan, but document everything, every conversation, every idea he shares. And under no circumstances should he sign anything." Sophia thought it over. It was risky, but it could work. "How do you appear in public with Nathan?" she asked. "Everyone thinks we're enemies," Rachel smirked. "I constantly criticize his methods." "Perfect," Sophia nodded. "Let's use that." So began their quiet conspiracy. Alex recorded every session with Nathan, every idea he presented. Rachel kept up her public criticism of Blackwood while secretly helping Sophia gather evidence against him. In Nathan's lab, Alex was working through another formula, carefully noting each step of his reasoning, just as his teacher had asked. On the table lay a folder labeled Cognitive Breakthrough, the Blackwood Method, and Alex glanced at it now and then with growing suspicion. "Incredible!" Nathan exclaimed, scanning his notes. "Your pattern recognition algorithm is flawless." "Mr. Blackwood," Alex began cautiously, following the plan he'd worked out with his mother and Mrs. Green. "This method, it's really similar to something Mrs. Green talked about during extra lessons." Nathan tensed immediately, his face freezing for a brief moment. "Rachel Green? Since when has she been giving you extra lessons?" "For about a week now," Alex replied, watching his teacher closely. "She said she sees potential in me." "Forget her," Nathan waved dismissively, irritation slipping into his voice. "She's jealous of my success. Her methods are outdated. She's always tried to sabotage my work." "She showed me your articles," Alex continued, playing his role. "And talked about. She doesn't understand anything about my research." Nathan snapped, aggression creeping into his tone. But he quickly pulled himself together and smiled. "Listen, Alex, the investor presentation is next week. If everything goes well, your mom won't have to worry about money anymore." "Really?" Alex feigned excitement. "Of course. Just don't tell her yet. Let it be a surprise." Nathan smiled, but there was something fake in it. "By the way, did she sign the documents I sent her?" "She said she wants to check with a lawyer first," Alex answered, just as his mother had taught him. Nathan tensed again, his expression hardening. "A lawyer isn't necessary," he tried to sound casual, but the effort showed. "It's just standard paperwork for participation in the study. We could speed things up." "I'm not sure," Alex said hesitantly. "My mom always says to read everything carefully before signing." "Smart woman, your mom," Nathan said with a tight smile. "But time is short. The presentation is soon." Alex saw how hard Nathan was trying to hide his anger. Would he have noticed that if he hadn't been warned? Probably not. The mask of the friendly mentor Nathan wore was nearly flawless. "I'll tell her it's urgent," Alex promised. "Excellent," Nathan nodded, slipping back into his usual friendly tone. "Now, let's see how you solve this next problem." The next day, an important meeting was underway in Victoria Sterling's office. Nathan Blackwood stood before the headmistress, feeling uneasy under her icy gaze. "You wanted to see me, headmistress?" he asked, trying to hide his nervousness. "Yes, Nathan," Victoria replied, sifting through papers on her desk. "Your grant application has caught the attention of the board, especially Mr. Foster." "I'm glad to hear that," Nathan said, unable to suppress a smug smile. The project has enormous potential, especially with a subject like young Mr. Wright. Victoria raised an eyebrow, watching him closely. Nathan tensed. You know? I know everything that happens in my school, Victoria said with a smile that resembled a predator baring its teeth. Never forget that. She let the words hang before continuing in a more businesslike tone. However, there's a problem. The boy's mother isn't rushing to sign the documents. I'm working on it, Nathan said quickly. She's just cautious. But Alex trusts me, he'll convince her. I hope so, Victoria nodded. Because the board will approve your grant on one condition. What condition? Nathan leaned forward. We need results by the end of the month, Victoria said coldly. And a larger share for Mr. Foster. But I'm already giving him 30%. Nathan protested. Now he wants 50, Victoria cut in. There have been unforeseen complications with the boy's mother. She turned out to be more stubborn than expected. Nathan hesitated, his face flickering with frustration. What if I refuse? Victoria smiled, but her eyes remained cold. Then I'm afraid the Academy will no longer be able to support your research. And perhaps questions will arise about your previous work. Rachel Green, as you know, has long raised doubts about its originality. Nathan went pale. You can't. I can, Victoria said simply. And I will, if necessary. Choose, Nathan. Your career or a bigger cut of the profits. Nathan looked down. His inner battle didn't last long. Fine. 50% to Mr. Foster. Good, Victoria nodded with satisfaction. Now find a way to get Mrs. Wright to sign those documents. We can't risk delays over sentimental concerns. As soon as Nathan left, Victoria picked up her phone and dialed. James? He agreed. But we may have a problem with the boy's mother. Yes, I know she rejected your proposal. Perhaps it's time to consider other methods of persuasion. That same night, Sophia was cleaning a hospital room, the exhaustion of her third shift in a row settling over her like a lead blanket. But she needed the money, for rent, for tuition, for Alex's future. Sophia, you okay? Nurse Sarah peeked in. Third shift in a row. I'm fine, Sophia replied with a tired smile, straightening up and trying to hide the pain in her back. I need the extra hours. You're going to burn out, Sarah said, concerned. How's Alex? Still enjoying the new school? Yes, he likes it, Sophia smiled, thinking of her son. Despite some complications. By the way, some man came by asking for you, Sarah remembered. Young, handsome, said he teaches at Alex's school. Nathan Blackwood? Sophia's expression sharpened. What did he want? He left this, Sarah handed her an envelope. Said it might help with tuition. Sophia opened it. Inside was a consent form for a research study, covered in logos from major corporations, and a sizable check labeled advance. As she read it, a chill crept down her spine. It says I give up all rights to Alex's intellectual property, she muttered, reading the fine print. And waive any future claims. Well, that's shady, Sarah frowned, peeking over her shoulder. Especially for a school project. At that moment, Sophia's phone vibrated, a message from Rachel Green. Just found out Nathan and Foster are escalating things. Be careful. They may try to pressure you. Sophia showed the message to Sarah. Looks like they're trying to use my son and silence me. Sarah scowled. What are you going to do? What I've always done, Sophia said resolutely. Protect my son. No matter what. As the day of the presentation approached, the tension grew. Nathan became increasingly pushy, keeping Alex after school more and more for extra work. Rachel continued publicly criticizing Blackwood's methods, which only deepened his frustration. Sophia watched her son with concern. Despite his reassurances, she could see the pressure was wearing on him. He had become distracted, his sleep troubled. One evening, returning home from work, Sophia found an official-looking letter in the mailbox. Inside was a notice: if the next tuition payment wasn't made within a week, Alex would be expelled. "But we just made a payment," she whispered, rereading the letter. "How is this possible?" She immediately called the school's accounting office. Unfortunately, the accountant explained with practiced politeness, "Your payment was processed as a charitable donation, not a tuition fee. They fall under separate categories. Technically, your son still has an outstanding balance." "But the form was for tuition," Sophia protested. "There may have been a clerical error. In any case, you'll need to file a formal request to reclassify the payment. The review process takes about a month." Sophia ended the call, fury boiling inside her. This wasn't just a system glitch, it was a deliberate move. An attempt to apply pressure. The next day, Sophia left Alex with Sarah and headed to the academy to meet with Victoria Sterling. But when she arrived at the headmistress's office, the secretary informed her that Mrs. Sterling was unavailable. "Will she be in tomorrow?" Sophia asked. "I urgently need to speak with her." "She has a very full schedule," the secretary replied coldly. "But if this is about a payment issue, you can speak with Mr. Foster. He's currently handling the academy's financial matters." Sophia froze. Speaking with Foster was the last thing she wanted, but she had no choice. In the Board of Trustees' office, James Foster greeted her with feigned friendliness. "Mrs. Wright, what a pleasant surprise," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "What can I do for you?" "You know exactly why I'm here," Sophia said, placing a letter and receipt on the table. "I made the payment on time, but due to some error, it wasn't recorded." Foster skimmed the documents. "Yes, a rather strange situation," he said, shaking his head with mock sympathy. "But you know, these things are easily resolved. Especially between friends." "We are not friends, Mr. Foster," Sophia said coldly. "And we never will be." "What a shame," he smiled, leaning back in his chair. "I could have done so much for Alex. And for you." "I'm here to resolve the tuition issue," Sophia said firmly. "Nothing else." "Of course," James nodded. "But there are other matters, like Nathan Blackwood's research project." "I hear you're hesitant to sign the paperwork." "Because it gives away all rights to my son's intellectual property," Sophia replied. "I have no intention of doing that." "Think about Alex," James said softly, but there was something cold in his eyes. "This is a unique opportunity. Especially for a child from your circumstances. My son doesn't need handouts from people like you." Sophia stood, her fists clenched. "Find another way to profit off someone else's ideas." She turned to leave, but James's voice stopped her. "If you don't sign the papers, Alex will be expelled from the academy," he said calmly. "Not for non-payment. There'll be another reason. Maybe plagiarism. Or a violation of the rules. What would you choose, Mrs. Wright?" Sophia turned slowly, her eyes blazing with rage and unshed tears. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. "Oh, I would," James smiled. "Don't forget, I have influence. And not just at Westbrook. One phone call, and you could lose both your jobs. How will you support your brilliant little boy then?" Sophia felt her patience snap. But what rose within her wasn't fear, it was pure, searing fury that gave her strength. "You really think you can break me?" she asked quietly. "You think I haven't fought all my life? I raised my son alone, worked 3 jobs, survived illness, poverty, and despair. And I won't bow to someone like you." She stepped toward him, and to his own surprise, James backed away. "I won't sign your papers. And if you so much as lay a finger on my son, if you do anything to jeopardize his future, I will destroy you. Not with money or power. With the truth. I have nothing to lose, Mr. Foster. But you do." With those words, she walked out, leaving James Foster frozen. Her final words echoed in his head, and for the first time in a long while, he felt something close to fear. The day before the presentation, Victoria Sterling summoned Alex to her office. "Alex, I've heard some troubling rumors," she began with maternal concern in her voice. "They say you're preparing to make serious accusations against Mr. Blackwood." Alex hesitated. "This is very serious, my boy. Such accusations could close the doors of academia to you forever, especially if they're premature." She opened a drawer. "Here's a special scholarship, full tuition through graduation, and a recommendation to MIT. Mr. Blackwood would, of course, be delighted to continue working with you." Alex felt a chill. This wasn't just a bribe. It was an offer of a future in exchange for silence. "Thank you, Headmistress Sterling. But I need some time to think," he replied, trying to buy time. The day of the presentation came too quickly. The Academy's conference hall was packed: investors, press, board members. Nathan Blackwood stood before the audience, smiling confidently. But those who knew him well would have noticed his fingers twitching nervously around the laser pointer, the stiffness in his posture. Behind him, complex graphs and formulas lit up the screen, the supposed results of his research. In the front row sat Victoria Sterling and James Foster, their expressions unreadable. Further back, almost unnoticed, sat Sophia and Rachel. Next to them was Lisa Foster, who had been secretly working with them for weeks. "Ladies and gentlemen," Nathan began, radiating confidence, "today I present a revolutionary theory of cognitive development and learning, the Blackwood method. The result of years of research." At that moment, the doors swung open, and Alex entered the hall holding a folder. According to the plan, he was supposed to wait for a specific moment to expose Nathan, but something had pushed him to act early. "And with this method, we'll be able to identify gifted children early and nurture their potential," Nathan continued, glancing briefly at Alex and stumbling ever so slightly. "Excuse me, Mr. Blackwood," Alex said loudly, stopping near the stage. "I think you forgot to mention the authors of the original theory." Nathan froze, his speech cut off. The room fell silent. "Alex, we'll discuss this later," Nathan said with a forced smile. "This isn't the time." "I have proof," Alex said, pale but resolute. "These are copies of the work of Maria Kostrova, Jason Lee, and Sophia Anderson, students you've worked with over the past 3 years. Their ideas are the foundation of what you're now calling your own method." He held up the folder for all to see. The room filled with whispers, people exchanging glances. Nathan paled, his confidence crumbling. "And that's not all," Alex continued, pulling a small recorder from his pocket. "I have recordings of our conversations, where you say you're using my ideas as the basis for your theory. And where you admit you've done the same with other students." "That's a lie," Nathan shouted, fists clenched. "This boy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's upset because I gave him a bad grade." "You've never given me a bad grade," Alex replied calmly. That simple truth silenced Nathan. "I can corroborate Alex's claims," Rachel stood. "I've spent 3 years collecting evidence, Nathan. Original drafts, student testimony, publication dates. You've been stealing other people's ideas all along. Headmistress, this is a conspiracy." Nathan turned to Victoria, voice cracking. "Green has always tried to sabotage my work." Victoria Sterling rose from her seat, her eyes cool and calculating. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the investors, "Westbrook Academy values intellectual integrity. If these accusations are confirmed, appropriate measures will be taken." Her gaze swept to Nathan. "Some staff may need to consider a change in career." In that smooth retreat, Sophia saw what others might have missed: Victoria's predator-like ability to survive by switching sides the moment the tide turned. At the unexpected turn of events, James Foster slowly rose from his seat. His expression wasn't pale or shaken, it was cold and calculating. "I'm afraid Mr. Blackwood has found himself in a difficult position," he said to the audience with the flawless smile of a seasoned diplomat. If even part of these allegations is true, we will need a thorough investigation." He turned toward Nathan, and in his eyes was not remorse, only the pragmatic decision of a man who always lands on his feet. "Blackwood, I think we should postpone the presentation until these matters are clarified. The Board of Trustees must review these unexpected concerns." Sophia saw the flicker of realization in Nathan's eyes. Foster was distancing himself, saving his own reputation. He was a fox who smelled danger and, without hesitation, abandoned his unlucky partner. "James." Nathan's voice cracked with desperation. "We had an agreement." Sitting beside Sophia, Lisa Foster murmured, "My dad does what he always does. He saves himself." At the back of the room, Victoria Sterling gave Foster a barely perceptible nod, and Sophia understood. The two had already exchanged signals. They would work together to minimize damage to their reputations and to the academy. As chair of the board, James continued, every word polished by decades of corporate negotiations. "I want to assure everyone here that Westbrook Academy upholds the highest ethical standards. And if those standards have been violated—" He paused dramatically, letting the unspoken threat hang in the air. "There will be appropriate consequences." There was not even a flicker of guilt on his face for his own role in the scheme, only the cold precision of a man seamlessly slipping into a new role, the restorer of order. Even now, he wasn't honest, he was effective. For a moment, the room fell into silence. Then one of the investors stood. "I demand an explanation," he said firmly. "If these accusations are true, this is a case of serious academic fraud." Nathan looked around the room, realizing it was over. His career, his reputation, crumbling before his eyes. With a face twisted in rage, he shot one last look at Alex, then at Sophia, and bolted from the room. Sophia approached her son and hugged him, pride overflowing in her chest. "You were brilliant," she whispered. "You know," Alex said quietly, "I really did learn a lot from him. It's just a shame it ended like this." "Not ended," Rachel said, joining them with a rare smile on her face. "This is just the beginning." After the scandal, James Foster never approached Sophia to apologize. Instead, the next day she received an official letter on the board stationery. It dryly informed her that Alex had been awarded a full scholarship in recognition of exceptional academic achievement. No personal note, no apology, just a cold, transactional gesture, as if nothing had happened. "He hasn't changed," Lisa said as she and Alex reviewed the documents together in the library. "He just realized it's smarter to change tactics. My father never loses, he just redefines what winning means." "What about you?" Alex asked. "Won't you get in trouble for helping us?" Lisa shrugged. "We have a complicated relationship. He's angry, sure. But deep down, I think he's actually proud I outplayed him. In our family, that's kind of a compliment." In the days that followed, changes swept through the academy. The board, alarmed by the scandal and the risk of lawsuits, launched an internal investigation. James Foster, ever the strategist, emerged virtually unscathed, positioning himself as the man who exposed the wrongdoing. Behind the scenes, he severed all ties with Nathan and reduced his involvement at Westbrook, diverting attention to less controversial investments. Victoria Sterling, however, didn't escape as cleanly. As the inquiry began to touch other questionable decisions made by her administration, the pressure mounted. "Westbrook Academy is launching an internal review of ethical misconduct," she announced, her face exuding noble indignation. "We have always held academic integrity and scientific ethics in the highest regard. And while we are deeply saddened by this incident, we are grateful to young Alex Wright for his courage and determination in speaking the truth." Sophia couldn't help but smirk as she watched Victoria expertly spin the scandal into a PR moment. An extraordinary talent for survival, she thought. And an absolute lack of shame. 6 months later. An article in an educational journal read, "The scandal at Westbrook Academy has led to the creation of a new commission on academic ethics. For elite schools across the country have already implemented the Wright Protocol, a system designed to protect students' intellectual property. Sophia smiled as she set the magazine aside. On the couch, Alex was explaining something to Lisa, gesturing enthusiastically. And that's why neural networks can recognize patterns, but they struggle with abstract concepts, he was saying. The doorbell rang. Standing on the doorstep was Rachel Green, holding a folder in her hands. I just came from the board meeting, she said. They've approved a new program for gifted students from low-income families. Fully funded. And guess who's going to lead it? Her eyes sparkled with that particular light that comes when justice finally prevails. Victoria appointed you? Sophia smirked. That's surprising. Victoria is no longer with us, Rachel said, unable to hold back a smile. After the investigation, a few more unsavory stories surfaced. The board decided the academy needed new leadership. And James Foster? Sophia asked. Still on the board, though with less influence, Rachel replied. You know, people like him never truly lose. He distanced himself from the scandal and even managed to frame himself as a victim of Nathan's manipulation. Quietly donated a large sum to the scholarship fund, no public statements, but just loud enough for the right people to notice. Nothing's changed, Sophia said, shaking her head. I wouldn't say that, Rachel countered. We now have clear guidelines for protecting students' intellectual property. Every teacher working with gifted kids is subject to a special review board. Lisa said her father has become more cautious. Maybe he hasn't changed on the inside, but at least now he has to play by new rules. And Mr. Blackwood? Alex asked cautiously. He left town, Rachel said. He's teaching at a small college in the Midwest. His academic reputation is ruined. Lisa sighed. Dad says Nathan was too obvious in his methods. I think that's the harshest criticism he's capable of. Did he ever admit his role in all of this? Sophia asked. In his own way, Lisa shrugged. He'll never say I was wrong outright. But now there's a photo in his office of Claire and me receiving awards at a science fair. And he makes sure Claire's name is always listed in her research. For my dad, that's practically a revolution. Sophia nodded. The world might not be perfect, but small victories mattered too. Come on, Rachel said, glancing at her watch. It's almost 7, and we still have your project presentation. As they stepped out of the apartment, their new, bright home, closer to the school, Sophia paused for a moment on the threshold. Life still wasn't easy. She and Alex had many challenges ahead. But now, watching her son animatedly discuss their project with Lisa, she felt that every sacrifice, every battle had been worth it. You don't get daily proof that justice exists. But sometimes, one person, even a very young one, can change the system if they have the courage to stand up to injustice. And her son had never lacked courage.
If you enjoyed the video, please support it with a like and a comment.